Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Flicks on the film theaters. Today, we're checking out a brand new theory from the new TV show DHMIS, otherwise known as Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And this theory is apparently how one of them is dead. I mean, if you've seen the show, most people would probably think, yeah, Duck. Like, he got his head decapitated. Or was that the fake one? Well, let's find out. Let's see what MatPat is thinking and cooking up this time.
Three friends trapped in a house of dread. Lessons taught will fill their head.
Oh yeah, the death episode. That's the one I was just talking about.
One a duck, the other red. And the last, the yellow guy, is dead.
Okay, what the hell was that? Thanks a lot, Matt.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory,
I don't know
a show
what the
that
hell
knows
just
that a
happened.
family
My
is
heart
just a
is
group
not
of people
beating.
who live together and have the same lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, it happened. The new Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared TV series has finally hit the airwaves, and it is great. To catch you up, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or DHMIS for short, started as a series of YouTube videos that took Sesame Street and
6
Jigsaw and then made the two of them kiss. The YouTube series followed three protagonists named Red Guy, Yellow
now
Guy,
kiss.
and Duck as they went on adventures, learned important lessons about things like or then injected pure nightmare fuel into our eyeballs with
Roy.
imagery like this.
Yeah, it's messed up.
When the series concluded in 2016, most of us thought that it had entered the great YouTube playlist in the sky, lost alongside Niga Higa and Jenna Marbles,
never
fated to
goes for
occasionally
6
pop up in recommended
years.
feeds from now until the heat death of the universe whenever the algorithm sensed that we were starting to get nostalgic. Or at least that's the way it was supposed to go until Don't Hug Me did the impossible and got a TV show.
Oh,
Earlier
yeah,
this year, the
that's
creators
right.
managed to wrangle together a real 6-episode DHMIS TV series on the British Channel 4. And after watching it, I gotta say, it nails the tone of those original YouTube videos,
Yes,
all
it
without
does.
feeling held back or tied
Yes.
down by them. In
It
fact, it's clear that while
does.
the aesthetics look the same, the series has moved on. The calendar that appears in every episode has moved from the original June 19th date that it was stuck on to June 20th. It's a turning of the
Oh, well, that's
page, a
nice.
symbolic new leaf. And whereas the original series was all about the corruption of art and children's programming, this new TV series seems to tell a more personal story about these characters, because they are actual real characters now. No longer
Oh, yeah.
are they just symbols for kids, or creators, or ducks, I guess. These three now appear to have
No
histories
idea what Duck
and
was even for, really.
lore. In fact, when
was
you
just
start piecing this
Duck.
puzzle together, the story of these three characters is tragic. They're a trio that's trapped inside of a repeating cycle built on one woman's guilt and pain. And if
Wait,
I'm
a
right about
woman's
this,
guilt?
at least one of these three characters is dead. So wakey wakey gang, it's theory time, just theory time, you'll see. For the first 4 episodes
I'll
of the
play on
show,
the
things
intro.
proceed normally. Or
know,
at least
those
as normally as
3
they
of us.
can for the world of
sue me,
DHMIS. Our
please.
3 characters start each day in some mundane way before eventually being joined by the Teacher of the Week, an anthropomorphized object that's there to share some twisted lessons about
Like a
topics
coffin,
ranging from jobs to
bookcase.
death to
I mean,
electricity.
why
Sure,
did I
there's
say a
some weird
bookcase?
bits mixed in
That
there,
was a
like Yellow Guy's
suitcase.
dad Roy
Damn,
viciously ripping
Fox.
apart a creepy family, or Duck killing off his own doppelganger, but nothing that out of the ordinary. But then comes episode 5, where we see the reality of the show starting to fray. In this episode, our main characters are confronted by an old living train, basically the nursing home
yeah.
equivalent of Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas the hover-around engine? Anyway, at one point the teacher turns into a car and then promptly dies. So our heroic
Yep.
trio does the reasonable thing and hops into his rotting carcass to take a road trip. And it works.
They
Not
literally
only do they
just
manage
drive
to drive
his
past the
dead
desiccated
body.
remains
Look
of
at
their
that.
original TV pilot.
I'm sorry, that place doesn't exist anymore.
What? What happened to it?
Just shriveled up, I reckon.
They manage to drive
Oh,
so
damn.
far that they break through what appears to be a simulation. They leave their cartoonish world behind only to end up in a realistic dystopian one.
We can't go back. I'm not going back into that house.
Guys,
Not going back to that house.
something out there.
Red Guy just broke.
Lost and confused, they set up camp for the night. As they sit around a fire contemplating their new world and hoping that the neighbors will show up to help, a mysterious voice begins
happened?
to echo through the night.
Journeys made and lessons learned. You may feel like you're alone.
Suddenly, Yellow Guy sees something out of the corner of his eye, and we cut to black. Only to then watch as a mysterious hand rolls a model of their car up to a dollhouse. The same house that we've been watching at the start of every episode.
The journey always ends up back at home.
Now, this is important because earlier this very episode, the characters had already talked about the episodic nature of content and how everything always winds up resorting to a status quo.
All we do is sit around and then some guy comes and tells us about banks or vegetables.
Nice to be
vegetables.
back at home, eh?
What are you talking about? We didn't even go anywhere.
And sure enough, when we rejoined them in episode 6, the characters are reset right back to where we started, none the wiser about their junkyard excursion the night before. And that's when things start to really pick up. At first, the season finale is all about electricity. Our 3 friends get an electric bill and they don't want to pay it because
electricity is silly stuff that ought to be free.
So of course, their fuse box, Electracy, comes to life to teach them more about the wonders of electricity and how it...
We're back.
Phones and televisions and radios. And yes, even your shredder. When the lesson suddenly turns to portable sources of energy like batteries, Yellow Guy gives us the surprise revelation that he too is powered by batteries.
No, I have batteries. See?
I have batteries.
Which is a strange detail that we'll come back to. Regardless, his current batteries are old, corroded, and clearly out of juice, so Duck switches them out for Electracies. Suddenly, the once doofy Yellow Guy is juiced up to the max, and instead of being dim-witted, his mind explodes with intelligence. Equipped with this new awareness of the world around him, Yellow Guy becomes the first person of the trio to realize that they're only on the bottom floor of what's a multi-story house. Yellow Guy climbs the stairs to discover the big boy room on the 2nd floor. Inside, he finds older versions of Red Guy and Duck that are able to learn not just 1, but 2 lessons in a given day.
You seem
big.
Yeah, we're big boys.
Big boys.
Big boys. Try and keep up, mate.
Unimpressed, he continues up to the 3rd floor, where he finds the more advanced bigger boys room, housing even smarter and more futuristic versions of Red Guy and Duck. Eventually, he's turned off by their heartless and cruel experiments, things like electrocuting an innocent lump of living flesh. So for a final time, Yellow Guy leaves the room and moves up another flight of steps. At the top of the house, things are extremely different. Here, Yellow Guy finds a door labeled Leslie, and we immediately get an answer as to what that means on the other side.
My name's Leslie. It's nice.
That's a human.
It's made clear that this is the woman that we heard reciting the rhyme at the end of episode 5. It was also her gloved hand that was resetting the dollhouse back to square 1 at the end of the last episode. But now the dollhouse is opened, and we can see small figures of the trio inside, recreating the exact events that we're watching play out in this episode. Yellow Guy is obviously full of questions, and Leslie promises to answer all of them, provided he plays with the dolls.
You help me tidy things up around here, and I'll help you.
Promise.
Just clean up. That's it.
Promise.
She then produces a large leather-bound book covered in a wacky-looking code before sending him back downstairs to his friends. Right as he's about to read it, Duck and Red Guy rip the batteries out of his chest in order to power the house. Yellow Guy forgets what the book was for in the first place and decides that it's something...
And they just shred it!
The season ends as the 3 friends cheer at the destruction of the book, so close to answers, or even an escape, but instead trapped inside their ceaseless prison once more. Making matters worse, Yellow Guy never realized that there was yet another level to the house that he never got to. It's an incredibly sad, surreal ending to the season, which leaves us on this unusual cliffhanger. Can Yellow Guy make the journey up the stairs again? Based on the pictures that we see behind him hanging on the wall as he goes up, we know that he's made this journey before. Hopefully there's a 2nd season where he's able to do the whole thing again.
Yeah,
in the meantime, though, we're left with a lot of questions. The first and foremost being who or what is Leslie? She's the only human character that we meet throughout all of DHMIS, which in and of itself is odd. Her design is also noteworthy. She's a bizarre mix of puppet and flesh. She's clearly a human, but her coat makes her look like one giant Muppet that's covered in fur, and her face has been stitched and scarred like a creature that's been sewn together. More importantly than her design, though, she acts like the puppeteer for this world. She's the one that's turning the crank at the start of every episode. She also appears to be controlling the actions of all the others through her miniature figurines, and when one of the dolls breaks, she has a drawer full of replacements.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry. I always make sure that I have plenty of backups.
Well, I suspect that I know what's going on here, and it all begins with one key line. As Leslie sends Yellow Guy on his way, he asks whether he can stay on the top floor with her. She immediately rejects the idea by shouting, "You're not my real son!"
Only joking.
At first, this just seems like a
the
random
fuck?
outburst, a combination punchline jump scare to keep us on our feet. But I think that this is actually the key to understanding everything about this new series. Taking Leslie at her word
Is
here, Yellow
Leslie
Guy isn't her real
Roy's
son, but he's
wife?
close. You see, I suspect that Yellow Guy represents Leslie's real son. A real son named David. A son who died. In episode 2, Death, we see
What
the
the
name
hell is
David
going
etched
on?
onto the grave where Duck gets buried.
Why does it say David?
Later, we see a large group of human mourners show up in the kitchen for David's funeral, where they again mistake Duck for
And
David.
We're just friends.
tissue box.
Friends of Dave.
He wasn't called David.
So, what would make me say that Yellow Guy is David? Well, take a look at what's stitched into Yellow Guy's overalls. On the front pocket,
It
there's
is a
the
D.
large letter D. And at the foot of Yellow
Whoa.
Guy's bed, the letter D again. In episode 3, Family, Yellow Guy is even given a special locket with the letter D engraved on it. Over and over again, Yellow Guy and the
Wow.
letter D are connected. D for David. But the connection between the two
So
goes
now
well
we know
beyond just
Yellow
the
Guy's
letter.
name.
Going back to the Death episode, when our happy trio first show up at the cemetery, the coffin assumes that Yellow Guy is the one who died.
Don't tell me. I'm good at this. It's you, isn't it?
And throughout the rest
What?
of the series, we watch as both flies and worms are attracted to Yellow Guy and no one else. It's almost
And we're back.
like he's a dead, decaying body. Plus, there's a strange moment in the intro of episode 5 where Yellow Guy seems to dissociate and remember something about his past.
I'm the one who had a dream where there was stuff like there was another me.
He's clearly remembering a dream where he saw another version of himself. He's seeing
Another him.
David. The same thing happens again later that same episode when he looks out the car window.
When I look out through it, it looks back in through me.
He's connecting with
Bong,
a past
bong.
iteration of himself, with David. We're also explicitly told that David is not Duck's name.
Why does it say David?
That's his name.
What? That's supposed to be your name.
We also know that Red
Oh.
Guy isn't dead based on his ID.
Don't be silly. You don't die for ages.
So by process of
Oh,
elimination,
well,
if one
okay.
of these characters is representative of David, it has to be Yellow Guy. This may also explain why Leslie says this to him when he first
That makes
enters the
sense.
room.
You're one of my favorites.
Sounds almost motherly. But this is far from the full story. The tragic twist of
maybe.
the tale is that we know exactly what killed
Sounds
David.
off,
He
though.
died in a car crash. In episode 5, when
Oh.
Red Guy tells Yellow
Yeah.
Guy that they're going to be part of a community, Yellow Guy fantasizes about living in a new city named Mulhoven. He imagines joining a neighborhood,
Mulhoven?
befriending the people of the town. Yellow Guy then moves into a new home where Red Guy's his neighbor and Duck is his
Oh.
pet. Everything
Oh,
is
that's actually
great
kind of
until
cute.
a clergyman offers Yellow Guy a bird as a welcome present. The bird flies away and Yellow Guy gives chase into the street. From
Oh,
there,
no.
you can guess the rest. Yellow Guy is hit by a car. I suspect that dream sequence may be
Damn.
more true to life than we initially
Wait, who was
expect.
behind the
Listen
wheel?
to the narrator of that little story.
Morning. Here in Mulhoven, Newtown.
It's
Lisa?
Leslie's voice.
Leslie.
You've got plenty
Why
of
does it say
reading to do.
Lisa?
In fact, it's Leslie
Duh.
screaming for Yellow Guy to get out of the street.
Oh, careful. Careful now.
And the reason she's screaming? Because she's the one in the car. Leslie killed her
Oh.
own son, David.
Damn.
What did you say?
Yeah, you heard me. Leslie killed her own son in this
Shit.
accident. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, when we meet Leslie in episode 6, her face is covered in stitches, almost like she went through an awful accident herself. Secondly, take a look at the license plate of the car that the gang drives throughout
says
this episode.
Leslie.
It spells Leslie. And most importantly of all, we know that David wasn't the only
Nice.
person in the family involved in a car crash that day. At the end of episode 3, as they're wrapping up what they learned about families, Yellow Guy describes a family as a group
And die on the same day in the same
Done.
style of accident, but in different
Okay.
locations.
But in
Unless his
different
father
locations.
Roy also died in a car
wow.
accident that same day, which seems pretty unlikely. I suspect that this line's meant to describe Leslie, who metaphorically died that day. And you see, that gets to the core
no,
issue
yeah,
here.
yeah,
That's
I
why
can
I
understand
think
that.
she's created
A
these
metaphorical
characters, this
death.
dollhouse, this world.
Like the whole
it's
thing
to
of
escape
dying
from that
inside.
trauma. The sad truth of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is that it isn't the story of 3 wacky puppets learning disturbing life lessons. In reality, it's the story of a mother grieving over her dead son. A woman that is stuck in a spiraling cycle of guilt, creating playthings that represent him so she can impart all the lessons that she would have taught him if he had lived. And she has dozens of
Yeah, that
backups
makes
to ensure
sense.
that she never loses him again. And for as much as
Like
Yellow Guy
going
reminds
mad.
her of her lost son, he can never truly be the real David. You're not my son. Don't hug me, I'm scared. It's a weird name, right? We've never really stopped to question
we've
it,
never
have
really
we? It's
questioned
always
it.
just kind of
Just
been there.
is.
So yeah, DHMIS, that's the name, duh. But really think about those words. Don't hug me, I'm scared. It's a reference to someone so damaged, so hurt, that they're afraid of something like a hug. They're scared of affection, of love, of opening themselves up to someone else. That right there,
Does make
that's Leslie,
sense.
afraid to love
Someone
again
that's
because
closed
she's
them off
afraid of
so
being
much to
hurt
where
again.
they-
But I suspect that in order to move forward, to
can't.
get to that final level of the house, that's exactly what needs to happen. A hug. Leslie to forgive herself, and Yellow Guy to give her a hug. Then, and only then, will both of them be able to transcend, to move past their stagnant lives inside that house and climb to the final level, to finally be free. But hey,
To finally
that's
be
just a theory.
at
a
rest.
film theory. And cuts.
Well, I have to say, that was an interesting theory, and honestly, I liked it. It really gave a good insight of the show. And hey, we found out Yellow Guy's name. He's David. But we're probably still going to call him Yellow Guy, because that's just who he is. He's Yellow Guy. Well, anyway, folks, I thank you all for joining me in today's video. I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And I'll see all of you... Oh, wait. Link to the original videos will be in the description below. And I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.